field of art, whether it be dance or theatre or painting, film, whatever genre you choose to be in, if you have an understanding of the context of where the art has evolved from over the past century or even further if you can, and if you're a student of history, then you can go apply yourself a little further to understand the craft, understand the kind of people who influence the movements, their contributions, their trials, their tribulations, and the walls that they had to, mountains they had to climb. For the art to come to a stage today where you can fly down here or take a train or something, come and be privileged enough to be a part of the Navrasa Sadhana studies here. And once it's over, you get on a plane or a train or something, go back and then apply yourself. Life's very easy today. Well, it wasn't. It wasn't like this for people like the personality we are talking about today. So we'll talk more about this as we go along. I will start the story now. Before we start the story, I want to say thank you. If you're talking about 100-year-old story and you're using visuals from them, it means somebody at some point took those photographs. In her case, in Isadora Duncan's case, it's these two individuals who did most of the photography, not all of it. There were other photographers as well. But these two, and that's why I wanted to name them. On the left is Arnold Goethe, who's German-American, and the years of his life and passing are there. And on the right is Abraham Wolfowitz, who's a Russian-American. And he was also an artist. He was also a painter. So he's done, other than photographs, beautiful photographs, he's also done drawings of Isadora Duncan. Why are we talking about Isadora Duncan today? She is a mercurial woman in the field of dance. She's an artist who created her entire dance, her entire movement alone. She does not have teachers. She did not train under anybody. She evolved her own style of exposition of dance entirely on her own. And she had very difficult beginnings to start with, and that's the journey that we walk on today. Again, acknowledgements in terms of the photo libraries, New York Public Library, the digital collections, and of course both these people whom we've talked already. And I'd like to to thank my friend, my close friend, Raphael, who for many, many years, 20, 25 years, we work together creatively, and he helps me with all my decks and presentations, which is a lot of creative work that I put him through. So I want to say thanks to him as well. Of course, we don't do this for any commercial aspect, so that makes us happy as well. This lady, Isadora Duncan, was born to dance. She, she was completely different in terms of her personality. She was clear thinking in terms of what she wanted to do. She was completely fearless, as you would see. As you will see from the story, she did not know the meaning of the word fear. She was very clear on what she wanted and committed to achieving that. She did make history. People talk about her and celebrate her even today. But life was not too fair to her, as the story will tell you. She was born in San Francisco to a very simple family. Her father was a banker and the mother was a music teacher. Unfortunately, as she was still a toddler when her father was a banker, was involved in something negative which didn't really work out, and then he had to be let go. So he kind of left the family. which meant that there were four children, and the mother was just, what does one do? And we are talking about 1877, not these times, right? What would a single mother do? That to a music teacher. But it so happened that the younger one, which was Isadora, also started helping out, doing small jobs and getting a little bit of money to kind of help the family move along. She was the youngest of four siblings. The others were also trying to help. Joseph Duncan was the father's name, and Dora Gray was the mother's name. And they kind of started to struggle financially and obviously psychologically with the abandonment and all that. But they were quite determined to make sure that their life will go on. She felt that she was not fit. Isadora always felt that she was not fit for any strict regime that would put you through a particular process. That's why eventually you see that she even walked out of school. She could not go through the regime of being told what to do. She preferred to dance around the trees and look up at the sky and start imagining certain things in her own mind. So she was, even as a very young person, a very, very creative individual in development, although she was not trained. Because of her mother's influence of music, and there were a few literature pieces of books, that little ones and colorful books, apparently two of them about Greece and the temples of Greece. So she was quite fascinated with that and kind of, resonated with her. And so she started talking about, thinking about Greek dances and robes and things like that she had seen on statues and stuff. That kind of excited her. And it went into her psyche, and it stayed there, and it came back as she started to mature in her understanding and treatment of her own art. It all came back, and you will see how it came back. So at this point of time, she started dancing in gardens and stuff like that, which is just on her own. But having had a little bit of that experience of feeling good, she started teaching small children those little dances for whatever little money that she could make and bring to her mother or help the family move along. So as a teenager, I've put some more words in here so that the story is clear to you. Even if I'm only interjecting in between and giving you the snippets that you don't know about, the words that are unsaid. Here you will see that I've articulated exactly who and what happened. So she was, as a teenager, she just left school. I told you that already. She couldn't stand the kind of regimental education as it used to be 100 years ago. She danced in classrooms, beaches, forests, whatever, that she could, wherever she could, she kind of applied herself to that. But very early on, her belief was something very, very different for the time and possibly for this time as well. Dance should be the visible expression of the spirit. So it, of course, in today's age, we can be very clear about this, because we've seen a lot of communication and histories that we've read of, people and stories that we know of. But those days they didn't, but she had that clarity. And then they said, San Francisco, still a little bit of struggle, let's try and see if we can go to Chicago or New York, because there's bigger cities, those days bigger cities. Let us see if we can get some opportunity there. And so she did that. And she worked, went first to Chicago, didn't work, that didn't do very well, so went to New York, and then she joined this Augustin Daly's company for some time. And again, as many of you will know, when you join a big company and you're as I would say, I was in theatre at one point of time, and incidentally, for those of you who are in theatre, the man who I consider as my guru is Girish Karnad, from the very first play that I was involved in. So if you've been in theatre, you'll know that the very first level that you get is the guy who brings the tea or the coffee, or the man in the wings, or you carry the props and stuff like that. So, very, very young lady getting to move with this company just so that she can earn a little money and not being able to do what she wants to do because you're trying to do what the company wants to do, didn't really, appeal to her. And she felt that perhaps America is not the place for me. I need to explore more, because people kept hearing about Europe and the fact that there are opportunities there, and there's a lot of ballet that comes from Eastern Europe, Russia and other places, where the whole tradition of classical arts was great. London in particular was very well renowned for theatre. It still is. I personally lived in London for a few years, and I know the city well, and the thing that I miss about London is nothing else but the theatre. It's just the notion of theatre. Every day you'll be, spoiled for choices of where to go and what to watch and stuff like that. So she got frustrated about New York, and then they decided as a family to put some money together to make sure that she gets to Europe. So she moves to Europe around at the end of 1890 something, 98, 99, we don't know the exact date. But around 1900 she gets to London. And then she tries to get these small performances here and there, but it doesn't really help her. But again, in many lives that I have seen also in artists, some people whom I know, one or two people whom I know as well, very talented, very serious and committed, but they struggle because they don't get a good break. Whether it's a film or a dancer or a playwright, they struggle because, like they say, there's a time for everything, and you need to be patient and wait. So she spent time in the British Museum looking at sculptures and trying to learn some, acclimatize herself to culture, and in the hope that it will embellish her own art. Then it was very lucky that she happened to be dancing in a garden, and a lady, a lead British actress, saw her dancing in the garden and really liked what this young girl was doing. She didn't understand what it was, but she called her. She called her in, and she called her in, and her name was Mrs. Campbell. So she called her into a house and said, I will set up a dinner with my friends, and I would like you to come and perform. I'm making the long story short. And that dinner happened, and her friends happened to be the topmost of British society, the most influential, wealthy, connected people. And that opened the doors for Isadora. There was complete acknowledgement of her talent, and she was initially put into different doors opened for her for performances, and she became pretty well known in London. And she you can see from the photograph, she's growing up. She's kind of maturing. And there, once the Atlantic cross had happened and the door opened in London, she went on to Paris, London, Berlin, Moscow, she started traveling. Those days it was take the ship to France and then take the train wherever you want to in Europe. And she was doing all that, and she really got to know and understand different cultures, but she never swayed away from her own thought process of what she wanted to do and how she wanted to do. So that was a very clear mindset of Isadora Duncan, that you go, because she believed, again, the last lines on this page, she did not dance for applause, but she wanted to awaken the human spirit. So she really believed that what I do, if I try and awaken my own spirit, then it'll get across to my Rasika or audience or whatever that the language that we use. So there was always that question that people ask me, wherever I've mentioned Isadora Duncan, was she just movement, and how long can we looking at movement? No, she had music, and I looked up and specifically added this slide where she used to use very, very beautiful composers: Chopin, Beethoven, Schubert, Bach, Wagner, Tchaikovsky. This is just a selection of people whom she used to select pieces from, and she would have a solo pianist at the performance. So only orchestral music and short, beautiful pieces would be played when she was dancing, or maybe somebody else whom she taught was dancing. So that's the way she handled music. So then we come to the question, what made her art different? Those of you who are performers will ask this question. So, what was it so completely new or different that she was doing? I need glasses for this one. So she felt that she's a firm believer in the idea that movement should be an expression of the soul, and that dancers were mediums. So you need to feel that. Did not believe in any strict or highly stylized movement patterns. Did not believe in that. So ballet or Bharatanatyam or Kathakali or Kudiyattam, they're all very strict patterns. She did not. She said, I'm not a part of this. She doesn't belittle it or whatever, but I cannot do this. Fine, fair enough. And in her view, the body was supposed to move freely and naturally. That's her fundamental standpoint when it comes to dance. The body should move very freely and completely. Her commitment to the naturalness and expressiveness of dance prompted her to dance barefoot. There was no shoes or anything. None of them used to do that. And of course the flowing robes, I talked to you about her influence on or by Greek statues and sculptures. So she used to have these free flowing robes to get her movement in the way she wanted to do it. Well, this is very controversial, and in those days this freedom of expression and whatever I want to do, I'll do, is not really something that people were quite happy about. And then she was a very highly controversial figure, and all through her lifetime she continued to be like that. But she didn't care. It did not come easy. So even here we know that I told you about Mrs. Campbell, Mrs. Patrick Campbell. I happened to see her. I told you about these stories. Although in the last paragraph, although she continued to divide opinions wherever she went, her native homeland, this is true of India also, when you seem to be seen as a star outside of the country, you suddenly become famous inside your country. Before that, nobody wants to, talk about you or whatever. So it's a common thing. Nothing wrong with it, but that's the way the world works. So she's in London now, first Berlin and then London, and she meets this gentleman. So this is the start of her, what can I say? It's a challenge and an issue with her. right? So, and it happens a lot with a lot of artists as well. She meets this gentleman, Gordon Craig, who's a wonderful designer, a production designer, set designer, and is feted by the London theatre world. He's very well respected, very intelligent, very, very capable, very articulate, both in speaking, in designing, in commissioning design projects, or taking on design projects as well. And they met, and they're two similar fiery souls. They got along. They really, really got along. And they had a baby. So her first daughter, Deirdre, was born with Gordon Craig. But because both are very opinionated and very strong individuals, it was bound not to last. And by 1907, they met in 1904, 1905. And by 1907, they went their own ways. They decided to part ways. But they did not part their friendship. All through their lives, all through their life they were both connected. Of course, people have their own, continued with their own lives. Gordon Craig had I think he was very, very popular because Gordon Craig lived up to, he had 11 children in total, and he lived up to the age of 95. Isadora wasn't that lucky. But that's Gordon Craig. So, that's why I had to put it the impossible combination. So, because of the whole temperaments that they had, and they knew that they could not, it was best that they wouldn't be in the same room. If they were not, it was fine. And they stayed friends all throughout their life. Then she met, now why an artist needs support, needs people who can, fund productions and, help you along and things like that. They were all intelligent, and it was not unusual. This was just the same thing. You need patrons. And she met this gentleman on the right, and that's why I've written the singer and the dancer. Why do I say singer? Because this gentleman was the heir to the company that made the Singer sewing machines. That's why his name was Singer. In our house, my mother had a Singer machine, sewing machine. So did you, So the same company, and he ended up being the owner. This is the son of the owner, very wealthy. So they had a relationship, and she had a son, Patrick. This was the second child of Isadora. You need to know this because it all connects with her art and her life as well. Now, this is the first tragedy that she feels. They were in Paris. I just told you they had a daughter and a son. She had a daughter and a son. She's looking after the children. Mr. Singer obviously came from a very wealthy family, Orthodox, and brought up with great money and comfort and all that. Isadora could not. She was quite something. So he kind of, after some time, just left. He just went away. But he did buy her a villa and things like that. So she had both the children now. She came to Paris. In Paris, one day, she had a nanny who would take care of the children. The nanny they probably had a car or rented a car, I'm not sure. They were in the car. Both the children and the nanny were in the car, and the car was parked. And the driver got off for something, and he forgot to put the handbrake on. The car went backwards and went into the river, the Seine. So, I'll change So both the children and the nanny died, passed away, and that was her first complete grief. I don't know, one of the photographers who took this photograph on the right, which is quite That's her, and these are her two children as well. So that was her first shock. And she so much happened to her that she went from one situation to another at the same time, concentrating on her dance as well. So just a very strong individual, very impressively strong woman. And even in this situation, she choreographed a piece of hers which said "Mother," and it's a haunting, elegy that is shaped in sorrow. And one can only understand that if one looks at the world of art. Then she opened schools in Germany, and then later on wanted to go to Russia as well. She did open a school in Russia. And when she had disciples, because of her name, one of the writers suggested this name, the French poet. The students performing group were known as Isadorables because of her name. And a lot of them, I've tried to put all their names there. I wouldn't know, neither would you, as to who they are. Most of them would have passed away as well by now. And she went on to teach. She loved teaching. So she would explore ideas in terms of what to do with them and move along as far as the teaching was concerned. So now we come to 1914-15 and we are in Paris. And in Paris, this is the height of one of the earlier talks that I did here. Yeah, we were talking about Nijinsky, Václav Nijinsky, the phenomenal dancer, at the last talk here. And the man whose word is right up there, Diaghilev, was the architect of this whole movement of Russian artists, immaculately talented Russian artists, leaving Russia and migrating to Paris, 1910 to about 1925. In between this, now you must look at it in terms of the history of the world. 1914 to 1918 was the First World War. There's a lot of strife in Europe. The last thing that people are interested in is art, but it still goes on, it lives, and that's the beauty of that time and age where people didn't let the spirit die. When the spirit dies, everything goes. So Diaghilev at that point asked, he went and identified, he himself was Russian, he identified the future talent or the great talents of Russian art in Russia when they were young and took them into Paris. And he had patrons who were funding him to arrange programs and positions and all that for these artists who came to Paris. And he then got them to produce dramas, and they made history. And so even dancers like Anna Pavlova he brought. Michel Foucault was the first choreographer of Diaghilev. Leonid Messine came later, second choreographer. And a few years later, after about decade after that, came George Balanchine, who then, after the death of Diaghilev, went on to America and established what you know as the American Ballet. And he created history in America as well. But it's all down to this man, Sergei Diaghilev. Diaghilev passed away in 1929 in Venice. But by that time he had left behind this entire legacy that lives on today. He was quite a strange man when it came to his personality, but his application to work and the dedication with which he achieved what he achieved was fantastic. Great patrons as well. Those of you, at least the women here in the audience, will know the word Chanel perfume. Well, Coco Chanel, the founder of the company, was a big patron of Diaghilev. So she financed quite some bit of the artwork that they did. Now, Diaghilev also liked to experiment with music. This was the first time that some choreographer or producer was daring to look at music a completely different way than centuries before. So he didn't want Western classical music, he wanted modern music. Modern music had not been invented. This was the time it was invented. So he got this person in the middle with the glasses, Eric Satie. He's a French composer and he was completely doing totally different music. Diaghilev liked that, and Isadora came in touch with Eric Satie, and so they became very, very close friends at that time. Although Satie was not reputed to be very friendly, but these two got along very well. At that point of time, there was, I still remember that reading about the fact that he came and told Diaghilev to, that they would put together a production called Parade, which is parade in English, Parade in French. And for that, a very young Pablo Picasso did the entire sets, the paintings of the sets and all that. So you can imagine how these people used to work in terms of imagination, where Diaghilev particularly, because he brought all these great artists together. Before they were great, many of them were not even known at that time. They were struggling artists. And he did all this bold and when they did Parade and when they did Rite of Spring and the Afternoon of the Faun, there was apparently the audience was up in arms saying, "What on earth are you doing?" But that was the birth of modern dance as you know it today. Nobody wants to do anything for the first time they won't accept. Second time, third time is okay. First time, we'll jump at you. So Isadora continues with her dances and her free movement and the sharing of her thoughts. And she prefers to stay in France and in Europe. She prefers to do that. She does not really want to spend too much time in America anyway, because most of her adult life has been in Europe. And her associations and friends have been in Europe. So she opened a dance school in Moscow in 1921. And there she met this gentleman who was a poet, who was a Russian poet, Sergei Yesenin. And they really got along and started being together. He was much younger than her. She was about 18, 19 years or something younger than her. But they were very much, successful in being happy, at least for a while. But the man had problems. So he was not particularly sane in the mind. And then she took him to America and he didn't want to stay in America. So there was something wrong with him. And he went back to Russia and immediately committed suicide. So she's, with Singer, I forgot to tell you that the sewing machine man, she had, before that. After both her boy and girl drowned in the river Seine of Paris, she had another friend, Italian gentleman, through whom she had a stillborn child. So it's 3 children that she has lost. I forgot to tell you that story. So we come back to here, and so she lost 3 children, and now she's come to this gentleman, and she was really attached to who he was as a personality. He went back and decided to end his life, and that was the complete devastation for her, because she was very fond of him. A lot of people were not, but she was, from what I read. And after that, she is kind of depressed, and she wants to be where she likes to be, which is the south of France. So she goes back to Nice, the city in the south of France. And her final years are there. She's there and she parties, and she's quite a freewheeling woman of the world, basically. She has her dances, performances, pretty successful, very well known, very happy-go-lucky, freedom, free spirit. And it was so that one day, being who she was, in the middle you see that the red car, that's just a replica. So it is a Bugatti Italian car, and it was similar that. And here these are actual press photographs. What happened was that she was in the car moving, and the cars those days had spokes, so this whole scarf caught in the spoke and it went round her neck and it broke her neck. So it pulled her out of the car and broke her neck. That's how she passed away. So this meteoric woman who came from literally nowhere, certainly nowhere in the field of arts, over this period of time had left behind such a legacy behind her, all using her own talent that came from within. She danced what she wanted to do. She danced with conviction, she danced with belief, she danced with her personality and feeling. That got into people. Yeah, that's what got into people. And her legacy has survived, as one would least expect it. There's no structure in it, there is no formal education in it, in terms of what you do. Even when she was there, later on, I'm not sure of what people have done with it, but she continues to be popular today, despite her challenges and so many years that she's been away. September 14th, 1927 is when she passed away. We are 100 years away from that. We're still talking about her. Yeah? She could not be stopped. Literally. I mean, her personality was like that. She could not be stopped. She will just keep going and do what she wants to do with her own conviction and belief. I admire that. Yeah. See, this is a beautiful statement. Somebody wrote when she passed away saying, she died as she had lived. With passion, style and poetry. That's how she was. Okay. So, she left behind more than memories. She left behind freedom and movement. So, that's what she left behind. More than her dance itself, the people, younger generation could believe that, I can do what I want. Before that, nobody had given them that exercise, right? You don't have to adhere to everything. You do what you want to do. Somebody had to open the door. Isadora opened the door. That's the contribution. Especially, in the world of art, I would say that is her singular composition, contribution. You need conviction to get that going through a very, very short lifetime, and to be as effective as she was. That's her grave, and she's buried in Paris. Although she passed away in the south of France, she wanted to be buried in Paris. And on the left is a still from Jacob's Pillow, which is a festival started by Ted Shawn, the partner of Roots and Dennis, whom we spoke about here at an earlier talk. That's a stage from there. And they keep recreating her dance and productions in many places. These two are from this year. On the big poster that you see on the list, still not happened. That is for September 2025. That's a poster for a performance that's going to happen in September of this year. This happened in March. All about Isadora. Yeah? It's all about Isadora. And can you imagine the amount of satisfaction and joy she would have had if she was around? But people who followed her work and her spirit and her outlook towards art documented it. So she's also not somebody who's actually been just talked about. She's also documented very, very well. On, by and about Isadora, there are scores of books. You, or each of you, can go and do your own research and read about it. Fantastic. The amount about her technique, and that's a Spanish book on the right. So you have Barefoot. So many of those productions have been documented. It's just a phenomenal amount of work that's out there. Even use the internet and you will get a lot of history about her and the workings of her life. So this one, I'd like to leave you, end the talk with one quote by her, which I like very well, very much. If you were wild ones, don't let them tame you. Do what you want. Go do what you want the way you want it. As long as you don't hurt anybody or kill anybody, you'll get away with it. But you live with the consequences. You have to be bold enough to do that. That was her message. So, thank you for listening. I hope it's kind of little a little illumination into an artist's life and work and her contribution in terms of who she was and what she left behind in the world. Yeah. So any one of you, we've got Menwashan next. But if you have any questions or even think of it later, that's my email address. Just drop me a note and I'll answer if I can. If I know, I'll answer. If I don't know, I will, I'll tell you I don't know. It's as simple as that. I don't see myself as a great historian or anything like that. I just like to bring you these stories. Okay? Thank you very much.
Hello. Hello everyone. We're going to have a really nice introduction by Venuji. I would really request him to come here and tell everything he wanted to say today.
So we're going to have another short talk by Shri Venuji. The topic, because as you all know, the Natya Shastra has received this